Thank you. So we'll call the meeting to order at 4:07 p.m. Finance Committee. Our chair, Marcia Croninger, will take the reins as soon as she gets her audio back. But we'll go first with agenda item 2.1, which is public comment. So is there anybody here who'd like to give public comment? You can raise your hand. I don't think the chat's disabled, so raise your hand if you'd like to give public comment. Not seeing anybody who wants to give public comment. Okay. Then we will go to agenda item 2.2, which is the 2022-2023 unrestricted general fund budget. I think we have a presentation prepared for this, so let's do the presentation and then we can do public comment and board questions. So let's, whoever has to share their screen. Is it Lindsay? Is it you?
Thank you, Trustee Aboud. Rudy Hill, our controller, is going to do the presentation.
Okay, great.
He's ready to share his screen and walk through it. Thank you.
Excellent. All right, it's all you, Rudy. Thank you.
Rudy, you're on mute.
Can everyone see this okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's see if I can hide this, try and hide this little screen here from Zoom. Okay. All right. So this is a quick presentation to go through the handouts that we share with everyone. So it's a draft of the unrestricted general fund. I think everyone has that. The other thing we uploaded was the assumptions. So this PowerPoint will go through those documents with specific extracts from the assumptions sheet. Okay. So this is what we provide to everyone. This is what we think this is what we worked up the numbers to be for 22-23. So we kind of give everyone a quick moment, just take a look at that. We'll delve into each section, and the approach that we'll take here is actually look at the main section. We'll look at revenue, we'll look at salaries and benefits, we'll look at supplies and materials, other expenses, and look at transfers. But at least holistically, what we have here is that we think we'll have about $1 million surplus at the end of the year. We can see kind of here holistically that we have better numbers for revenue. This reflects a lot of what's come in with the May revise. Okay, so I want to start off real quick with just the first part, which is the revenue dollars. So what we have here is we've worked in the assumption of 6.56% COLA. Okay, that just came out recently with the May revise. Originally, I think it was like 5.33% that we're working with. So with the May revise coming out, we've been able to update our numbers to reflect the new COLA. The other thing that's in here is what we're seeing now are the increase in rates. So there was a lot of, I think about $250 million. Well, I think total is like 250 million to increase the actual rates in the funding formula. And I think there's about another 125 million to increase the amount of base allocation. So with those additional funds, we've, with some help from other worksheets that we've been able to obtain, we've been able to come up with what we think that those final numbers will be here. So that's reflected in the 48.6 million from state revenues. Local revenues have gone up slightly due to what we think is about a 3% increase in property tax revenue. Now, I think one important thing to highlight here with regards to the base allocation are the next couple of bullet points there on SHOT Center and Wake Center. Because of what we're estimating the FTS to be for next year, it is coming down one notch down in levels from what they were in previous years. So there is a slight impact there to the amount that we would normally expect to receive in funding. And On the positive side, we are estimating an uptick in international tuition revenue as well as out-of-state tuition. And that is something that is not it's not just because it's a positive projection. We're actually seeing that in the results for this year. We had estimated about 3.7-ish for both those categories. We're already north of 4 million in the international, and about a little over 4 million on the out of state, or roughly about 4 million. So we do see a positive trend there. So I think we feel real confident in this number. One of the persons that heads up Carla Smith, she's been instrumental in helping us figure out what that international piece may look like for next year. So feel pretty good about these numbers. So overall, what that means for SBCC is that we're projecting about $109.1 million pool of funds, a revenue for 2023. And of course, if anyone has any questions, please let me know.
Any questions? Cornelia.
Yeah, quick question just for thank you so much, Rudy. Quick question just for my understanding. So we are expecting a 6.56% COLA increase. Given that we have an unrestricted general fund revenue of currently 106 million, I see that you are estimating that only about, what is it, 3.3 million increase from current year to next year. So I'm not quite sure. I understand that you can't just add 6.5% on 100 million, but that it's only 3.3 more. That I don't understand specifically, because we are getting the 3.7 million in the base funding increase. So
yeah.
I was expecting, in other words, I was expecting more revenue.
Yeah, and we're, in all honesty, we're still working through how, because there's a couple of things that's being impacted with these additional funds, and we're really trying to work out, make sure we have all the numbers correct. So I think you're right. There's probably another million or so there to go that we're working through, because what we know is that the rates, so the amount we get paid for FTS, right, in the 4 categories, we know that's going up. We also know that's being impacted by the 6.56% COLA. We also know that the base allocation, the basic allocation, which is the size of the district, that's impacted. Now, we have to hit 10,000, right, to fall in that category, 10,000, 20,000. Right now, the projection looks like it's a little bit under. So we're still working to figure out, okay, where are we going to land? So that's going to impact that number as well. So back to your point, when we put this together, when we updated it with the newest numbers, it was based on our understanding how the rates were going to change. We have, subsequent to putting these numbers together, gotten more clarification on what those rates are. And I just started to play with those numbers this afternoon. And you're right, it probably is going to bring it up another roughly, $1 million plus.
So can I intervene for about 2 seconds? I know I'm just jumping in, but I think the part that maybe we need to, and maybe you said it before I came on board, Rudy, was that the ECA is going away. And so basically when Lindsay and Rudy and I were doing the numbers, part of the issue is that $3.7 million in the base just barely covers the ECA amount that is disappearing next year. Am I misstating that, Lindsay and Rudy? Oh
no, you're right. That was the next point. So thank you, Kendra. I appreciate that. Yes, that's a big part of this. So
Yeah, because that's, yeah, I mean, if the ECA was staying in place, then we got the base and then we got the 6.56, well then, yeah, we would expect to see a huge amount of revenue. But when Rudy and Lindsay and I were doing this, we could see that the ECA, the 7.5 just kind of covered it. I think it was like plus 400,000, correct, Rudy?
Yeah, it was something like that. Yes. So on a positive note was when we were looking at these numbers with what we thought was the truth, 5.33% ECA. When we take those TCA off, you're right. It covers and we did a little bit better than what we're thinking. So that's a positive. Does that help, Cornelia, to some extent give some context around this 3.7?
No, I understand.
okay.
And I understand that the 3.7 were not in addition, but they basically are making up for the ECA we are losing.
Mhm.
But still, I mean, an increase of only 3.3 million appeared to me a little bit low, given a 6.5% COLA. And thank you for it. I understand this is also brand new. I don't. It's great.
Yeah.
It's great to hear that you are still like kind of like trying to work on that. That's all good.
Yeah.
Hey, I just want to intervene real quick. Marcia, do you have your audio back to give you back the chair?
Are you on mute? Are you on mute, Marcia? Your
Yeah.
mute button is on.
Okay.
Uh,
That's bad.
What's ECA? I'm
You're-
sorry,
you're-
what's ECA?
so sorry, wait, real quick. Marcia, you're logged in on 2 computers, it looks like.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did.
So,
And
yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, yeah, that's good.
Oh,
What's
okay.
ECA?
So
What's
that's the
ECA?
that's the emergency conditions allowance. So one way that like I think about it is by having the ECA in place. Let me step back. So when we applied the actual rates that we get paid for FTES, they apply that to a 3-year average. What ECA has done for us has allowed us to maintain a really high average because we're using the 1920 number, so about 12,600, which has been great. But with ECA going away, now what we have to do is live with our FTS. So that means for next year, I think we're just a little under 10,000 plus whatever we report for this year, plus a 1920. So our 3-year average now is no longer artificially supported, or it doesn't have this emergency conditions allowance. It is a real 3-year average, which is lower than 12,600.
So Rudy, if I can take over again, and thank you, Jonathan. I don't know what the issue is here with the audio. My follow-up question is, you just mentioned that you thought we were a little below 10,000 in FTES, I assume you're referring to?
Well, yeah, for this year, we're at least the last number I looked at, and please, if anyone in the group has a different number, it's a little under 10,000.
For this year, 20
for 21, 22, and then for next year, these numbers here assume I think 9,950, we'll say something like that.
Okay, well, whenever we go below 10,000 FTES, we drop to a small college. We are no longer a medium college. And that has implications for how much we receive from the state for our facilities, which would be main campus, Wake and Shot, and maybe some other aspects, but I know it does for that. Has that been incorporated into the budget?
Yeah, so what you see here are those assumptions.
That we will be a small college now, not a medium college.
Yeah, that will fall within those ranges, correct. Yeah, and so that's what we highlight here in the bullet points: Shot Center and Wake Center. So even with that, these are the numbers that come out. Now, of course, as we look more like what 22, 23 will be, if we go right above the 10,000, right, then that just adds more dollars, obviously, to this projection.
So fundamentally, Anna, to go back to your question, do you understand what's being said about when the ECA, which allowed us to rely on earlier higher FTES, has now gone away, and instead we have an increase in base allocation, and so they're kind of canceling each other out, but more work is being done on exactly how that plays out.
Marcia, thank you for that. I didn't quite get the canceling each other out, so that's really helpful for me, particularly for the question that I wanted to ask. Excuse me, for the question that I wanted to ask. So with that in mind, I was also thinking that when Rudy said that looking at the numbers based on assumptions that we look pretty good, I'm wondering if we are in a position, even considering the expected drop in enrollments around 30% that's being floated. Are we going to be able to use some of this better budget picture to start addressing a little bit of the structural deficit? Because I'm just concerned that when we are in a position like we are now, small college versus medium, better position than we had imagined, can we at least start to kind of think about ways to address somehow structural deficit so we can at least move in that direction, so that not have that be the excuse every time we try to do something big, that we're at least moving towards something with the structural deficit. Does that make sense?
So I'm going to chime in on that one instead of putting it on Rudy, because that's really kind of above his level. That is something that we've discussed with the board, that we will be addressing the structural deficit this year. We're going to put a group together, and we're going to work, probably we're looking at somebody maybe from FCMAT or a professional to help guide us through.
Oh, right. I remember that.
At looking
Okay.
at our structural deficit by actually looking at numbers, looking at being intentional about filling positions, et cetera. So yes, that's, the board charged me with doing that this year.
And okay, and I just want to make sure that we're in a position, it looks like we're going to be able to address that. I do remember that portion of the conversation. Thank you.
So I appreciate all the great comments and questions here, because I think what it helps, at least for us, at least for me, is that we have incorporated all of these concerns. These are in here. We have tried to capture what the reality will be, what we think it will be for 22-23. And so I think those are all pretty well addressed here in these numbers. And back to something what Cornelia was saying, we are still having to go back and look at make sure we have the right rates in place. From a document that I received today, if anything, there's going to be a little bit of upside there. So I guess when I say good, it's a little bit qualitative from my perspective. What I mean by that is I don't say worse.
Right.
So if this is bad, then it won't get worse.
You're right. Got it.
So sorry about that.
That's okay.
Sometimes it's the human part, right, of presenting numbers. It's
Yeah,
like
it's
these are the
relative.
numbers. And I do, obviously I'm part of the district, right, like everyone here, and so I do worry when I'm putting numbers together. But one thing I really like about the process is that we really do, as a group, look at the numbers with no end objective in place. I can definitely discern that we're not trying to saying, well, do we think it's going to be this? I mean, now Kendra, of course, she's got, and Lindsay to have sort of the bigger picture, and they can kind of see if it's in the right direction at the end. But in terms of how the numbers get put together, we simply, I get what the projection is going to be for FTS. I put that in. Whatever that comes out to in terms of large or medium size, that just goes in. What the rates are, that goes in. What COLA, that goes in, and this is what comes out. So to that end, I think it's a pretty objective approach to it, which is also one of the documents I think we shared, right? Which is what's our approach to budgeting. So, but hopefully that gives everyone a sense of where this is going. And kind of to Marcia's point, we kind of with what they did with the May revise, they really swapped out ECA, this protection, right, to like, which is really to protect districts from declining enrollment. They kind of swapped it out with a different way of increasing rates and COLA to replace it. So we're not any worse. because EC is going away.
So Rudy, I have another related question, which is we were talking about the projected FTES. And in the first section under the assumptions document, we've got FTES assumptions under state revenue ongoing. And all of those say that we're projecting the same.
Yes.
In other words, no increase in FTES over this last year. But then you get to local revenue and it says enrollment fee revenue is expected to increase by 2% based on the district's projection of a 2% increase in resident credit. So those don't seem to be consistent.
Yeah, so that's bad on my end. As we're revising this document, it's one number that on the assumptions I didn't get updated. I'll get that fixed. But as far as the numbers themselves, it does reflect that, what you would expect for the enrollment number.
Which one is it? An increase or the same?
It's the same, yeah,
So we're projecting the same without an increase.
correct. Yeah, that's an assumption that I'll get updated after this meeting.
Okay, so enrollment fee revenue will drop 2%,
Yeah.
which isn't a huge number, but
Yeah.
it's a number.
Mhm.
Can I clarify that now? I'm completely confused, please.
Okay.
So I think, Marsha, enrollment fees will not drop 2%. I think enrollment fees just will not increase 2%. That's what Rudy just said. They will
Yeah,
stay
I guess
flat.
that's, yeah,
Yeah.
depending on how you
So
interpret it. Yeah.
that was my immediate confusion, but the other confusion, I want to go back because I'm not quite clear about this. Are we projecting for us or budgeting for a small college or not? Because you're saying that we are holding the line
Mhm.
of the current or the outgoing 21-22 year. And it's my understanding that if the FTS we are about to generate this year at the end of summer one is still a little bit over that threshold of 10,000 or what it is over that threshold before we drop to a small college. So are we budgeting for the small college or for the medium college? I mean, the difference is about 800,000. It's my
Yeah, again, from my perspective, I'm given a number for FTS. It happens to be right under 10,000. It goes into the model.
Okay.
And there's a table, and what comes out is there's a couple of ranges, and the top range is ideally like 10,000 to 20,000. The next range is 10,000 down to I forget the actual number, and it's that middle range, and that's where we are. That's just how the formula comes out. So I'm not trying to like wordsmith this. I'm only saying that the FTS is under 10,000. It goes in the formula, and yes. If you get a couple more, you would be in the next level, which is, you're right, it's about 800,000 or so, the difference.
No, this is great. I was just like, what? So this is for small college. I just wanted to make sure I understand that right. Thank you.
Yeah.
But Rudy, so I understand it, you're saying what's in this budget that we're looking at is small college.
It's that range, yes. It's whatever we would get from the state for being under 10,000, that range underneath of 10 to 20,000. Yes.
Okay, so there should be an assumption somewhere in our list that drops the amount that our main campus receives, along with dropping the amount that Shot and Wake receive.
I'll put that in there.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And I'll move on to the next section. I can always obviously come back to revenue.
So Rudy, can I just,
Yes,
I
please.
make this a little bit muddier for everybody and a little more uncertain? Because part of that 125 million is going into the base. I think that actual base number is going to be, I don't think we have that exact number yet of what that's going to look like. So I just want to take Rudy off the hook on this one for the moment, because I don't I have not seen anything that shows us how the 125 is translating to the college size number. So if I go to the rate, because I just went to the chancellor's office and I'm looking at our rates for colleges that are under 10,000, it's 4,250,000 in the base. But if that 125 million gets applied to that, we don't know exactly what that is yet. We have not seen a number that says this is exactly what our base number will be. So I just want to point that out for everybody, because I think that's still uncertain. And tell me if you disagree, Rudy or Lindsay, but in trying to see where all the numbers, where everything's going to change, I think that's still a little out there.
I agree, Kendra. And so when I look at these numbers, I mean, it depends how you look at conservative. So please, so the way I'm going to define conservative is I don't want to say like we're going to have more revenues and all of a sudden you have a surprise that's less. I say this number represents what we think is I don't want to say worst case scenario either. This is a conservative approach to the numbers. If anything, I really think there's a uptick probably in these numbers because we don't have those final rates. If anything, it's probably going to go up from a document that I was looking at today. But we have to go dig further into it, and we're not going to put that number in here until we can hang our hat on it. So what you see here is really the best information that we have without overreaching on how much more we maybe will get. Okay, so I'll go on to the next one here. Okay, so for salaries and benefits, there's a few bullet points that we have here. The main thing is we had a 5.5% salary increase approved for 21-22. And that number is reflected in the 22-23 budget, of course, that's ongoing. As well as there's always a step increase for those folks that haven't hit the max on their step. So that's reflected in here as well for 22-23. With regards to hourlies, it's gone up a little bit, about 6%. The other big impact to salaries and benefits are, of course, STRS and PERS. And down below the last two bullet points, you have some the percentage increase and how that translates to in terms of dollars.
Okay, does anyone have their hand up? Kindred, can you see? Because on my iPad, I can't see.
I don't see any hands up at the moment.
Okay. The numbers for PERS and STRS are the known numbers that were set some time back. Is that correct? Do we know how long ago? And I ask because I think we all know the stock market has gone way down since January. Mm-hmm. And they have a very significant part of their investment money in the stock market and do not sell out, because if they did, the market would crash.
Yeah, so as far as the PERS and STRS, I just confirmed that with my payroll manager a few days ago. This is the latest sheet that she received from these folks, 25.4 and 19.1 for PERS and STRS respectively. I haven't received an update. Have you heard anything, Marcia, on your trustee?
No, I haven't, but I'm wondering, I guess we should keep close track on it, because I would imagine that at some point they might really have to raise those numbers. Okay. I don't know what that point is, but clearly they, on paper at this moment, they don't have nearly the resources they did have at the beginning of the year.
Okay, I see your point. We will keep a close watch on that, which is kind of your point, Trustee Croninger, about these rates. I was kind of like, I wonder if it's changed, because I know I had a set of assumptions. So I asked my payroll manager if she's received anything, but I'll follow up with her again.
Those are also the latest numbers that were provided in the May revise for planning next year's budget.
Okay, so if anyone, any other questions, we can always come back to this. I'll just push on to the next slide here. This is just a kind of a graphical way to show how these percentages break out for the district. So roughly what we're saying is we're maintaining about 87.3% on the amount of salaries and benefits to our total expenditures. Okay, so non-labor expenditures. We do have in here the impact of some of the items that we've identified that would be impacted by inflation. Not all items, some items are a little more, we can control more, but some items that are, especially those that are pegged to petroleum products, right? They're going to be impacted by inflation. So that's reflected in here. It's about 377,000. Within, I think, overall, we're thinking that we see here that non-labor expenses budget to increase about 9%. So it's about $1.1 million increase. Well, now one good thing for us is that a lot of the instruction supplies we're able to push that off to the lottery funds. That helps the district. And when we met with all of the budget owners, turns out that we'll actually need a little bit less for 22-23 versus 21-22. So overall, when we looked at this, we don't see any major swings in expenditures. I think something within the realm of reasonableness, I'd say. And again, this going back to the same chart we looked at before, that part of the budget, the non-labor piece, it's about a little under 13% of the total expenditures.
Historically, just so everyone's aware, that is a, historically going back further here, that's a high number. The 87 and what is it? 87.3% is high. We have aimed more for in the 85% range. Cornelia?
Yes, thank you. I have these mixed feelings when I hear Rudy. And so Rudy says I think it's this slide, and says, well, instructional supply, printing, duplicating expense remain in the lottery fund. And we say, yay, this is then, if I understand that correctly, yay, so that will relieve the unrestricted general fund. And then on the other side, I say, oh my goodness, this will drive up the percentage of personal cost and create concern. Right? Do I understand this correctly?
Cornelia, we have been putting our instructional supplies to the lottery fund for a number of years now. So this is not a change. It's just a reaffirmation of that practice.
How many years? Was it 2 or 3?
More than that.
More than that?
Yes.
Okay.
You're going to stump me on the exact number of years. I'd have to go back and look at the prior year budgets, but pre-COVID.
So Lindsay, I haven't been a CBO in a few years, so excuse my ignorance, but is lottery still in the unrestricted general fund as far as where it lives, or is it partially in a restricted fund and partially in unrestricted?
The second, there's actually 2 versions of it, unrestricted and restricted version.
Yeah, okay. That had changed when I was a CBO and I wasn't sure it was still the same. And then it gets excluded from the 50% law, correct?
I don't recall offhand.
Okay, that's no big deal. I'm just trying to make sure I'm very clear on understanding how lottery's set up now.
Anybody else with hands up?
No, you got everybody.
Okay,
Okay.
Rudy, do you want to move on?
Yes, so this last part here is where we list out our transfers. So the big part of it is, about almost 2.9 million. And we list out here on this slide what those transfers are. A few of them we have to do. We have to do the self-insurance, 725,000. And they're all important to really the functioning of our district. The first one, the Children's Center, 200,000. That's important to really supporting everything from our students to staff. Those that use the Children's Center. The other one is a construction fund. We're looking at about 650,000 in transfers. Equipment fund for program review, about 200,000. Food service fund. So on that one, it is high, 600,000. We've been able to claim lost revenue over the past couple of years through HERF. For 22-23, that's not going to be the case. So we are budgeting about 600,000 as a transfer. We have the parking fund about 200,000 and the campus bookstore at 275,000. So I'll pause here and see if there are any questions regarding these transfers that we're budgeting.
Anybody have their hands up?
I do, as always.
Okay, Cornelia?
Okay, so let's start with what you just ended, the food service fund, the parking fund, and I'm not sure how things work with the campus store, but definitely those items which we in the last 2 years were able to backfill lost revenues with HERF funds. It's my understanding that we still have HERF funding left over. So isn't there the possibility that we rather use that money to backfill the 22-23 lost revenues, or is that disallowable? That's my first question, because if it is allowed, I would strongly recommend that we actually do it, because that is what the HERF money was for. Or alternatively, I think we are getting a significant amount of one-time funds to be spent over 5 years, which is also still kind of earmarked to help us with all kinds of post-COVID related expenses. And I know there's many possible uses for that. First and foremost, I would be thinking about like helping our enrollment to get back up to speed, but that could be, I could see that as an alternative. The other question I have is why do we, in this specific year, and again, it's a one-time thing, but in this specific year, why do we have to transfer 650,000 into the construction fund? Aren't we expecting like somewhere in excess of $8 million in one-time fund for which could be used for equipment or construction? I forgot the name. Sorry, I'm blanking on this.
Deferred maintenance.
Yes, thank you so much. So I mean, I remember we had years where we were trying to spend down the construction and equipment fund. I know we're not doing this anymore, but we also don't have to kind of take that maybe out of the unrestricted fund. So
well, part of it is, so I think the emergency part here is kind of the key term. With those deferred maintenance, we have to tell the state exactly what we're going to spend it on, and we have to upload it, and it's very specific. This emergency are for things that we don't really know, and we put dollars in there. It's for lack of a better term, it's a little bit discretionary, but it's categorized into that maintenance. Whereas the deferred maintenance really, in my mind, scheduled, which that's how we label it, which is very specific. So even the funds we receive for 21-22, these are very specific projects. So in an emergency, we wouldn't really know what that would be. But we do know, just from experience, you know, especially I've seen over the past year that emergency things break, right? And it wasn't one of the scheduled maintenance projects that we had in place. So that's why we depend on these funds for for those purposes.
Okay. And
Um,
my other question was about the lost revenue question.
Yeah, for the food service fund, that's gonna be that's gonna be a discussion that we'd have to have, you know, I'd have to have above my pay grade on that. But what I can tell you about the HERF, right? We've been presenting to HERF, you know, we've been presenting to the district how the HERF funds were going to be allocated, and you know, the plan was and still continues to be to spend everything by the end of this fiscal year. And that being the case, none of those funds were really slotted at all to cover any lost revenue going beyond this fiscal year. That doesn't mean there couldn't be any funds left over from HERF, but I'd say most of those dollars are already earmarked. So I don't know that that's a possibility based on what we've been budgeting for HERF.
Yeah, on the other side, not everything was spent. And I think you also did some research, right? Like asking people, are you going to, or are you not spend that? I mean, in the rush that people were asked to put proposals in, and in the rush that was approved, the 4.7 million by the board. And I remember that Trustee Croninger said, let's wait. CPC hasn't discussed that yet, and she was totally right. I mean, in this rush, maybe we made plans, which by now, on hindsight, where we could say, well, maybe we should use that money for something else.
Yeah, well, two things for sure did change over the past couple months. One is we did bring down the amount of lost revenues related to international and non-resident, so that part went down. However, we are going to fund the 2%, right, for salaries out of some HERF dollars. So that, you know, it's kind of, we give one, but we take from, you know, to fund something else. So we'd have to go back and look but that's kind of a bigger kind of endeavor to figure out how we will look at the food service fund. But for now, that's the projection right now, is that we would do a transfer to cover food service fund.
Okay, thank you.
So anyone else with hands up? I note that all three of the food service, parking fund, and campus store are transfers we have not done in the past. And as Rudy pointed out, partly because they were covered by HERF, but historically when we budgeted, those were either breaking even or coming out ahead. So my perspective on those would be that it's not so much a question of looking at how do we backfill them right now, as it is what is our budget situation going forward? Are we going to have to be expecting to contribute to food service, parking, and campus store, given the changes in enrollment, given the changes in more online, for example, less parking issues, campus store, all of those food service, they're all affected by how many students are on campus. And that has changed. And it is changing in terms of student preferences as well from pre-COVID. So I kind of worry about it in terms of that larger context of going forward. This may be a permanent part of our budget, or something we have to address as part of that structural deficit discussion that Kindred referred to earlier.
And I would say that you're correct, Marcia. We are going to have that as part of that discussion. One of the things that I've asked that we make sure we try to do, and Lindsay and I talked about this last week, is we're trying to do everything we can to ramp up in-person services on campus. Things like what the board discussed, the library, keep our food services going as much. our campus store, trying to really encourage students to come back to the college. And we need to start, what we're doing is looking at the trends. What is happening here? And do we need to continue these kinds of services at this level if the students are not using them and we don't have the revenues coming in? So that's something that we will be looking at as part of that structural deficit issue as we continue to try to build our student base back. We're really trying hard for fall to do that and then see how the trends go.
Well, thank you. That's how I was thinking about it. On the construction fund, my comment would initially be that I thought we spent more than 650,000 previously per year on emergencies, and that, you know, this is not a sustainable number on a going forward budget either, as we have these discussions about making a sustainable balanced budget. So the other piece of this is we have an exceptionally large amount, it would appear, for deferred maintenance. And I think what the board needs to see and what the committee needs to see and talk about is not just this unrestricted general fund, but a couple of big pieces of the restricted general fund, which are the block grant, the statewide $750 million block grant, and the construction fund, how that fund looks when you add in the amounts for deferred maintenance for next year. Because I feel like my first reaction of, well, 650 doesn't do it, needs to be tempered by understanding what's coming in and what we need to do with it for next year. Does that make sense as we put this information in front of the board?
It definitely does, Trustee Croninger, and that's slotted. You know, as we work through these numbers that are coming in, right, there's opportunity. That's kind of how I've seen a lot of people mention. We have this almost historic opportunity with the amount of funding that's coming in. So being prudent about how we put it to use will be critical. And so the plan is to do that. So and you know, I'll get the input from the folks that have the plan, you know, and work it into the final product.
Okay.
So definitely,
so,
it's about that.
Even just preliminary numbers, and I realize you're figuring those out as you are talking with us about it. It's not like we should expect these to be all done. So, but preliminary numbers give us a feel for where we're headed, at least. And those two big areas are restricted budget, and we're not looking at the restricted budget. So.
Yeah, no, and I really appreciate just the input. I mean, I sort of came it today knowing that, okay, I'm going to have some homework that it's going to have to be done, notes to be taken, so that I can get more guidance, right, from Kendra and Lindsay as we process priorities, right, that you're presenting and the other trustees are presenting. So I think this is extremely informative for me personally, as we get, you know, start to refine it further. I think, right, Trustee Croninger, that's kind of the expectation, I think, right, to get this input, get it in there. So, okay, thank you.
I would like to share a suggestion I have. Is that okay?
Sure.
So I see here this, the last bullet point, the self-insurance fund for liability insurance. And if I understood Rudy correct, that is something which basically is there on a regular basis, right? It's not going to go away. It's not a one-time backfilling for something, but it's basically an ongoing insurance expense. It appears to me that it would help with the clarity for like the reader of the budget if we made this a separate line item. because of this like ongoing and repeating nature, it's right. It's a little bit like our electricity bill, right? It's not, it's appears to be just like a coincidence that this has a separate fund and as such is treated as a transfer. So it's just like, because otherwise we always have these large transfers and then we have to break them up. What are these transfers for? And we could like, if we could just like make the 725,000 its own line item, because it's coming to us every time, that would like relieve the need of even more explanation and people to trying to divvy that out. Thanks.
Good suggestion, Cornelia.
Thank you, Cornelia. Let me look at that. Just part of the issue here, right, is to do the right accounting presentation on this. Maybe there's another way we can show the same thing and still maintain sort of the proper gap as far as presentation of these numbers. So let me is it okay if we get back to you on that one? If there's a better way to show that.
Yeah, great.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
I want to correct something. It's not a coincidence. It is a separate fund for a very specific purpose as directed by the Budget and Accounting Manual. So I think we have to be careful about the terms we use. Unfortunately, Rudy, Lindsay, and I are trained in Budget and Accounting Manual, and it is a fund that we use. So the presentation of it, I just want to comment that actually this presentation of making sure that the transfers are very clear. I think it's really good that the college has been doing that and showing them as separate items. We have to be thoughtful about the way we are told to present and use those transfers. So it's not coincidence.
Totally in agreement of that. So it's not coincidence. I would just still see it or recommend it to show it in a separate line item, if possible at all. Thanks.
Actually, I would like to see us show a couple things in separate line items when we start improving our budget. So we'll get to that discussion somewhere along the way.
Okay.
So
I think, unless anyone else has a hand up, we can move on.
So this last slide here is to show, when we look at revenue, we look at expenses, what is the change in the fund balance. So for 22-23, we're showing a budgeted positive change of $1 million or surplus, adding to the ending fund balance with an ending fund balance of 30.2. And so with a board designated reserve of 21 million, based on the calculation, we have an undesignated reserve of 9.2 million.
Anyone questions? Rudy, were you going to go through the assumption document? I think that would be helpful. I put some notes on that.
I can bring that up. What I tried to do with this presentation was extract some of the main assumptions, but that's absolutely, I can bring that up and just go through it. We go one more slide over, see if there's, okay. There's some of the next steps here that we have listed. Any questions? Okay. So
Yeah, actually,
you want me to bring up the assumptions page? Or
well, just a second. On the previous page, I did mean to mention that we currently do not have a finance committee scheduled before the review the first public hearing on the board budget, the adopted budget. So we need to arrange another one in there somewhere around the CPC retreat or whatever is in front of September 1.
Okay.
And trustee Croninger, would you like that to be a study session again so that you have the opportunity to, so you do this with your committee and then you have like the board, the full board just does a study session like we're doing on the tentative?
I think that's a good way to do it, but I don't speak for the whole board on that, so. But I think, maybe we could bring that up right at the end of our study session this time.
Okay, so we'll know how to move forward.
Okay, so I can bring up that assumptions document here. Let me just stop sharing this. Okay. So excuse me, start from the top here with revenues. So we were discussing earlier about the FTS. We're not assuming any changes from our 21-22 numbers. In the revenue numbers, we're assuming a 6.56% based on the latest May revise. Some of these were ones that we put into the slides there. Some of these other assumptions.
And the number 4 is the ECA that is going away that we talked
Correct.
about. So the actual projections for all the supplemental allocation factors, those are hard to do, I know. And so we typically wait a while before we can come up with those. But what we are able to do in increasing enrollment in our disadvantaged students really impacts this, because we are relatively low in the funding that we get for Pell Grant and probably Promise as well, because our percentage of disadvantaged students is lower than what the formula assumes. So we have room for growth really in this area. I don't know if you want to comment on that, Kindred.
Well, we are actually, not using the whole percentage that we could. So that's something we're trying to figure out and see if we can improve. This is an area that I think we've really got to look seriously at as a college. So that's about as much comment I'll make at this moment on it.
I had a question.
Hannah, go.
Yes, thank you. So Dr. Murillo, you were saying that we have, or was it you, Trustee Croninger, one of you were saying that we have fewer underserved students. Is that because of COVID, or is that because of declining enrollments, or both?
Probably both.
Okay.
Well, I think there's even more to that, because we have students that come from other areas in California, and we have some international students.
Oh,
I think
okay. I'm seeing the picture a little bit better.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
So
Yeah.
I think
I-
part of it is we lost a lot. We lost about, we think, somewhere close to 20% of our most underserved students when COVID hit, and not absolutely correlates to low income, but in most cases
Right.
in colleges, it has been.
Correct. I got you. Okay. All right. Thank you. That's helpful.
I would just add that when the student focused funding formula, I'm botching that, was first came in, it was pre-COVID, and we were below the percentage that we could otherwise get in that fund, in that funding, because we didn't have as many low-income students. So it started that way. We may have lost more through COVID.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. I want to do an analysis on that. I think one of the things that would be good for us to do is go through from the time that the funding formula went into place, Rudy, and then look at the supplemental component on the Schedule C. And see, I was just looking at it just now and see exactly, it's section 2, supplemental allocation, AB 540, Pell Grant recipients and Promise Grant recipients, and take a look at those numbers since the inception of the student-centered funding formula. And I think that'll give us a better idea. So maybe that's something we can do between now and the next time we talk about this.
Okay, we'll do.
Yeah, I had a question. Actually more of a comment. I'd like to help with that, Dr. Murillo, because I think if we get a better sense of whether the drop-off is related to financial need or something else, it'll help us in our outreach to increase our enrollment numbers. So I'd be willing to help however I can with that. I think that's a really good project to sort of flesh out and get beneath those numbers.
Okay, appreciate the help and I appreciate the eyes. I think that's something I know I would like to know a little bit more about at our college. I know at my prior college, we definitely were able to associate the drop with COVID students, with our low-income students. And so I don't think we've done that work here yet. If we have, we'll see if we can find it. If not, we'll do it.
Great. So kind of building off of that.
Can I
Yeah,
ask
go.
a question on that topic?
Sure.
There's
go, Liz.
been a lot of public comment about we're losing so many students because of our vaccine mandate. Is there any way for us to know if that's true?
Liz, I just have to say thank you for asking the question, because that's something we're really having to guess at a lot because we don't know for sure. There's lots of reasons we lost students. One, we know that a lot of students lost jobs, and so they ended up having to look for other jobs, and so they had to drop school. It got too stressful. There's just a lot of things. The vaccine mandate didn't go in until last fall, and so those students were already gone, the ones we originally lost. Does that make sense? But
It
then
does,
I
but
think
people have thrown out, we've lost 40% of students because of the vaccine mandate. And I don't think that's true, but
I don't think that's true.
if
either.
there was any way we could at least determine, some close number, I don't know how we could, but something to think about.
Yeah, it's something we think about too, when we think about renewing or upping the vaccine mandate again. So
Yeah, I know. It's one reason why I asked.
thanks.
Okay.
Well, I would just add that it's not possible that it's 40% because it's been 43% as I calculated since 2009-10. So we're not talking 40% for COVID by any means. And the other thing I would say is I don't know how you would know how many students you lost. And I don't think you can calculate how many students wouldn't come if there wasn't a vaccine mandate. I mean, there is a flip side to this that we need to keep in mind. And part of the reason students do come to in-person classes is feeling safe through the processes and the requirements that we have. And the results of that in terms of actual cases shows, I think. So I don't think it's going to be easy to figure this out.
Oh, I don't think so either, but I just keep tired of hearing it.
Me too.
I wanted to comment on that because Liz, I think you raise a really good point in trying to find out rather than just having these people throw out the numbers and with us not having any response. Because when we were at the conference for the trustees, the CCLC, one of the sessions they had was on the new normal of online and digital learning. And one of the observations that they made, that they said that there were several reasons for the great student disengagement. And they said a lot of it did have to do with COVID and not masking, but they were talking about one of the points that Trustee Croninger made. Students were taking jobs because they were having to support family more. And then the other reasons that they had was that the students were trying to schedule classes between whatever was in person and whatever was online, was difficult. So masking was not a part of any of it. It was more trauma because of many students lost family members, and they were working and they were trying to deal with trauma, and masking wasn't a part of that equation. So I do agree that it would be almost impossible to find out, but certainly the numbers wouldn't be definitive. But it's a good question to raise because people do like to use that for whatever reason, either
And we
gender
don't ever
or-
seem to have a response. So
right.
it'd be
right.
nice if we had something.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So on the assumptions here, so one thing I actually wanted to throw out on these numbers is this is the part where ECA doesn't impact like the rates and the numbers. So especially in this next part, I just thought I'd throw out, because I've actually looked at this, I found it really interesting that over the past couple of years, even with some of the declining enrollment there, just the way I looked at the data, it's kind of interesting. Like it seemed like the district's done really well on the student success. I just want to throw that out. So I've looked at those numbers. I thought, wow, it's pretty. Despite, and this is the part I thought was interesting, was because the district maybe has some decline in enrollment, but if you do really well in these factors, you're getting rewarded. And I have looked at that, and I found it actually really positive. So, but I also want to throw out that this part of the formula is the ECA doesn't help you. You live with the numbers. It's a 3-year average. And the district's done really well in this area. But we're assuming that stays the same in the budget. And the last part here, let's see what I wanted to hone in on. Property tax revenue, we're assuming a 3% increase there. We're assuming lottery revenue remains flat. Again, that helps a lot with taking on some of those instructional costs. But the fact it's okay that it's flat, because we're projecting that we're actually going to need a little bit less for next year, so that's good. Let's see what else. Oh, and the last 2 points in Trustee Croninger, I'll make sure and add a 14th point here, which is to talk about the size of the impact of what we're thinking for next year for the size of the district. I'll put that in here. But at least for Schott and Wake, this is what we're thinking, that there'll be that one level down from what they've been in the past.
Yeah, I don't think there is a medium-large center. I think there's either medium or large.
There are 4 categories.
Are there?
Yeah,
Okay.
there are 4 categories. So there's even one right below this one right above that one, and one right below this one. And for the basic allocation there, they're the 3 sizes.
Actually, it looks like there's 5 now.
Oh, the 5? Oh, wow, thank you.
Wow, yeah.
Oh,
I'm
great.
just looking at the Schedule C.
Okay, maybe I missed that. Maybe maybe I missed that one. Okay.
Yeah, I was just looking at it. I was like, oh, wow, they added one.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I stand corrected there.
Yep.
So that's what we have there for the.
Could you explain the note? Because I wasn't quite clear what that meant.
Okay, let's see. Let me reread this.
I mean, FTS always is a significant driver because if you don't have students, you don't have a success formula component. And then there's the base element, which is.
Yeah, so this is probably, I'd say here, this is a comment right before the main revise. So I'll revamp this one. Probably doesn't make any, I'll have to revamp this note. The idea was to say, maybe the intention here was to show that going forward, we're going to have to live with the with our numbers, right? Past couple of years, we've been able to live off this ECA, a 12,600 FTS number, but going forward, really whatever the impact of declining enrollment is, it's really going to starting 22-23. We're going to have to live with that number because it's going to work into a 3-year average. That was sort of the gist of it. Doesn't sound like I articulate that correctly, so I'll rework the note on that. But that was the gist of it. Because if we look at last year, because of ECA, we could say that, yeah, there's declining enrollment, but that's okay because we're in the pandemic. And so we have ECA. So we're being funded on 12,600, but that's not the case now going forward. So that FTS is critical to understanding how much revenue we're going to get.
Well, that's a really important concept, I think, for people to understand. So it's well worth noting. Maybe if you include the numbers, so you say with ECA, we were allowed to be funded 12,600. Now going forward, our average is projected for next year is projected at X, because I don't know what the 3-year would be for next year. I know you're saying just under 10,000 for that 1 year, but I don't know what the 3-year is.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so I've written that down. I will work on this note to make it more clear. And hopefully that's helpful for the user to know like how critical it is, right? Maybe that's another way of saying FTS, really critical going forward. See, so for state revenue, one time, the big one is right here, the deferred maintenance, 9.5 million, which Trustee Cronin, you were commenting on it. The others had commented on Cornelia commented on it. This has got to fit into these are additional dollars. How does this fit in with what needs to happen with the emergency fund? So that's something that we're digesting, and we'll get that processed here as we get everyone's notes here and comments and work that into the tentative budget.
That would be very helpful. And now that I think about it, isn't there a component of that that's technology limited? I mean, it's for improving our technology for online, probably.
Yes.
An emphasis on the online.
Yeah, no, that one there is a plan there. So let me ask. So from the reader perspective, sounds like there should be something more holistic that addresses the technology part, the facilities. Like it sounds like that would be absolutely useful. And I think we do. I think we do have an intended budget, a section like that.
Right.
So we will address that as well.
No, that would be good because it does appear that we will have a higher component of online classes, and that means we should be seriously improving our technology to do that if it's needed. And I think we have also said that our technology needs more money in general. So typical transfers need to be increased for our budget to be sustainable.
Okay, thank you. And we will, that'll be definitely laid out in the tentative budget. Thank you. Local revenues. So I'll get this cleaned up on the enrollment fees. You know, again, this is put together right before, you know, some of the main revise. So I'll get this all cleaned up here on that first piece, but there's two other pieces, 2 and 3. Those are, I think, pretty good numbers from what we've done from Carl Smith, who oversees that area with international specifically, and that's what the trend has been. You know, it's been trending high, it's been pretty good, you know, pretty good. So 5.7 for international, 4.2 for non-resident or out-of-state tuition.
Do you have head count numbers for those? I don't know how to convert.
I don't have that number readily available, but I'll make a note here that you like to see that, right? That number.
Yeah, it's not just the money, it's people, and it helps.
Will do. Okay. I'll get that in here. Okay. Expenditures. Many of these points we've talked about this. We're going through the PowerPoint slide. Salaries and benefits being the big part of it. As we look at 22-23, that salary and benefits does reflect that 5.5% increase. It's ongoing. It's there, as well as about 300% increase on top of that for 22-23 related to annual step increases. The other part there too in 22-23 is there's a lot of folks that now are hitting the longevity. So there's that uptick there as well. Let me think what else here to highlight.
I have a question about number 5.
Okay.
Which is the filling of only the most essential vacant positions. I don't have a good sense of how we're approaching that and whether we have, you know, a consultation component to deciding what is most essential, how we handle that. So I don't know that you have the answer, but I'm just throwing that out there as something we should be thinking about.
Yeah. From my perspective, what I'm doing to provide those that are in the position to make those decisions is to make sure, okay, here's what we have in the budget as open positions. Here's the ones that are vacant. And so I pass that along upwards. And so that discussion has already started. What is that going to look like for 22-23?
Do we drop out positions or when we don't fill them, or do we, you know, literally they're gone, or do we kind of hold them in abeyance and keep them in the budget in any way?
Well, that's part of the process we're working through. What's going to be the best thing, the best strategy. There's some ideas there. Position control is going to be critical going forward. It's something that doesn't always be the easiest thing to do, but we do have a plan in place on that. And really the goal is for me to help out, at least on the budget side, to keep track of what is open to be hired. And you know, and have a process in place to process that into the budget. So the idea being, don't want to put something in the budget if you're not going to fill it for next year, but you want to have the dollars there if you are going to fill it. So that's kind of, I'm just providing the framework there to help out with that process, and that's going up higher than myself to decide what those positions are. And that's kind of what the gist of number 5 was, that there is a going discussion on what those positions will be for 22-23.
So can I just step in for a minute, Marcia, because one of the issues that we are, and I'm Rudy just acknowledged, the personnel control has been not quite like we would like it the way it's set up right now. So position control is, Rudy's working on that side, working with HR so that we're very clear on what positions are in the budget and what are not in the budget, and what positions have been that have been vacant for a long period of time that need to be cleaned up, and where are they? So I think the first spreadsheet we saw with Rudy the other day kind of gave us a good idea of some areas we need to clean up. So that's the first step in position control that we're looking at, is getting all of those positions cleaned up between finance and HR. So that's where we're at in that process right now. And so I'm really pleased that we're finally like laying it out in a way where people could actually see it. So yeah, it's important because position control should be going on between finance and HR, so that always, if something's not being filled, that it is an immediate into the banner system, so that the banner system picks it up, so that Rudy can pick it up in the budget. And we're not seeing it as that clean of a process at the moment.
Well, thank you. That seems like an important thing to the position control is just very important.
It is.
It's important in understanding our budget as well, because if we are budgeting for positions that are not going to be filled, then that really shouldn't be money in our budget,
Right.
because we don't expect to fill them. The other component I was trying to get at, though, was I think that when we determine what are the most essential positions, because we are trying to shrink here, we are trying to have some attrition. When we talk about what that means, sometimes it may be totally apparent and obvious, but at other times it may be the people really on the ground at the lowest level where the work is being done that we're talking about, that know the most about what is important, what is essential. And I'm just looking for a way that we can hear from them, that they have some input, even if the ultimate decision is different from their viewpoint, that they have that chance to say something about it.
So let me give you an example right now. We're going to be looking at student affairs. And so we will be looking at involving the employees in the area to have the discussion about how to reorganize once we get the new VP in. We've got some, we're holding vacancies everywhere in that place while we are working through hiring a new VP, and then we will have some engagement around reorganizations. And then we have a format to come forward and be transparent about the costs, the FTES. So we've been working on that for the last couple of months.
Well, that's great to hear. Thank you.
Just waiting on a new VP, I hope.
Well, the new VP would certainly want to be in place and part of that process. So,
I kind of think so.
yeah. Okay. Rudy, did you have more?
No,
And you
well,
have,
I couldn't have said it better. That's I'm actually really excited to be working on the, helping out with this process, because it'll be great to be able to have the banner spit out the answer. So yeah.
hands up, Marcia, too.
Who's got a hand up?
Guess who?
Cornelia and Liz.
Cornelia.
Liz, I'm not sure if Liz was first. Liz, do you want to go first? Because I had my hand up already a ton of times.
You can go ahead.
Okay, all right, thank you. So I would like to actually tie in this very recent discussion where we were looking at the expenditure line item number 5. And I think that discussion was triggered by Trustee Croninger about the word essential, right? I mean, we hope that we are not making unessential hirings. period. I would just hope this for our institution. So who is how are we determining what is essential? And Dr. Murillo, I really appreciate how you were describing how you are involving the people. How did Marsha say it? The people on the ground, with the boots on the ground, and have the information with respect to the, I believe, student services area. But here is, I think, a central piece where I'm missing. And you have heard this from the FA a couple of times, and I think you also heard it from CSEA, that again, the student services area alone is a silo. We need to have this ranking committee that CPC approved on November 2nd last year, and we are now in the middle of summer. It has still not started. And I'm saying that to drive a sense of urgency, because that would be the place where we're not only looking at student services, but we are looking at the college as a whole and all positions. And I understand that there are concerns on how this is going to work out because of timing issues, especially for non-faculty hiring, because the non-faculty hiring is not just happening at the fall semester. I totally get this, but I think, again, in order to work these things out, we need to get started. And I really would hope that we are getting started with this as soon as possible. And I think this is exactly the way on how to work on this question, what is essential. And this process, Dr. Murillo, that you announced earlier, that is that the board requested about, a broad overall analysis for the college, maybe including FICMAT again, I think could help here too. And here is why this is so concerning for me. And that goes now to line item number 2. And I would like to read that for us. Permanent employee salaries are budgeted to reflect the impact of the 5.5% salary increase in 21-22. That is the outgoing years. No salary increase has been included in the fiscal year 2023 budget. So what we have been seeing at the last or third to last slide from Rudy's presentation, that 1 million, give or take, surplus, right? We have that, assuming that there will be not a single dollar going to current employees in COLA adjustment. I don't think that this can leave anyone in this room unconcerned, because the inflation is raging and it started in the current year. Don't get me wrong, I don't think that it will stop anywhere soon. There is an expectation, a justified expectation of employees, current employees of this college, that there will be a cost of living adjustment. That's the name, cost of living adjustment, not only for the institution, but for the employees. And I remember last year, and I thought this was a very smart move from our controller and our vice president, business services. You put in a contingency in the amount of the COLA, which kind of helped us kind of understand where our budget would end if in fact we are giving COLA to the employees, right? What is it, what is coming in as COLA for the college, and should be used to provide for a cost of living adjustment to the employees. And I think I don't see this, and this is something I'm really worried about. I'm really worried about, and there's all these components. And again, the number 5 with the essential hiring and a planned hiring, and a hiring process where the constituency groups are involved and they are not really at the moment. I think this is important too. And that would also, I know that the board, and you said that several times, the trustees here, this magic number of 87.5 or 87%, that is an important one. And all these numbers drive into there. And I really hoping that we will have a discussion about that. Thank you.
Liz?
Yeah, well, I agree with Cornelia on that. I mean, for a 6.56% COLA and not any for the employees is going to cause real issues. But my main question was, for one thing, I think we need to be transparent. We need a list right now of all the positions that are vacant. Before you decide if you're going to fill them or not, give us a list of everything you consider to be vacant, because that kind of goes into number 6. We thought you were going to start decreasing the number of short-term employees. So is this increase because of salary increase or because you have more of them? And when you do your list of positions, you've done some things. You have a lot of people that are working out of class at a higher position and you're moving somebody else. That needs to be just out there so everybody can see what's going on. But we really need to know why you're increasing your short-term employees, when we were under the impression that we would be decreasing them. So that's my questions. But the transparency is really important to find out which positions are vacant so we can compare. So if we come up with the same list, and are some of these short-term employees filling those positions, that we really need to know, because that's not legal.
So Liz, let's just take your concern first. This whole thing that Rudy mentioned about the position control is exactly where we're starting, because I can't even get a list that shows me exactly what vacant positions I have. So, and that's really frustrating from my point of view.
I can understand that.
Because I've been asking for that list. And I've been asking for a list of the short-term hourly employees and who's been here the longest and who's been here and by years, so that we could actually look at the issue that you're talking about so we can move forward very transparently. So that's the part that Rudy and HR are working on right now, is that position control, is making sure that we are aligned so that we can actually see, like, this is the list. And I really don't understand why there is an increase in the budget assumptions for 6%. Maybe Lindsay or Rudy can explain it, because my intent is that we need to reduce some of our short-term employees, but I also recognize that some of those employees are tutors and employees that service the issues around in-person students. So I think that's something we have to peel apart.
We need to get those separated.
Yeah, so that's the part I'm trying to get really clean.
Yeah.
And poor Rudy's in the middle of it right now, trying to make sure that we get a really good list.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I should point out about tutors, be sure the people that you consider tutors are really tutors. They're not
Well,
tutors being
yeah.
used as short-term hourlies in other areas just because they can't fill a position.
Yeah.
And
Well-
I know that's happening, so we need to stop that. But I think you should, once you start working on your list, maybe you should get the unions to help you.
We will. I'm trying to get a list so I can sit down and talk to you.
Because we want to see what your list is, because we might know of some that maybe you haven't picked up on.
Yeah. So as soon as we get that together, we will definitely sit down with you.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll be waiting impatiently.
Sounds
Thank
to me
you.
like you're on the same page there, Liz and Kindred, and heading in that direction. I would go back for a moment to Cornelia's comment and just remind folks that we were pretty clear, I thought very clear, that we need to have this discussion about a sustainable, balanced budget without a structural deficit first. We need to figure out how we're going to get there and what that means for the college and its employees before we can understand where we might be on raises for this next year. I mean, that's my view, and that's why I was disappointed that folks were not more enthusiastic about being a part of that process when it was brought up. But I still believe it's essential that we have that first. And I also think that the idea of FCMAT being a part of that discussion is important. I hope they will be available to help us, because I think that that is a great way to get an outside experienced third party looking at our situation and helping us come to a resolution of this budget structural deficit that we've had for so long. I don't want to kick it down the road. I'm tired of doing that, more than tired of doing that. So,
Marcia, just so you know, our group asked to be part of that. It's not that we don't want to be part of it. We asked to be part of it.
and I appreciate that, Liz. I did know.
I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you.
And I would like to point this out for the FA as well. I mean, we are enthusiastic, and and as I said in the last board meeting, we are working on putting this in writing. We wanted to have this information here, but again, the FA has, I mean, the fact that the CPC approved this committee with with broad representation, sorry, I mean, is because of the CSEA and the FA driving that and saying we need to work on this together. It cannot be only PC, with all due respect to PC, who I trust a lot, but I think it is important to have the employee groups included. And again, so this is what I try to communicate our enthusiasm, Marcia. So
Okay. Well, I will accept enthusiasm in fact, and that's what we're looking for. Now, one thing I would like to return to is that we touched on in the board meeting last time, and that is what I'm referring to as the hammer. That the budget says that if you're still relying on I've forgotten the term, Kindred, you're going to have to give it to me. But anyway, if you're still relying on the budget to prop you up, you will not get COLA after 24-25. So that is a real hammer. I mean, there will be no COLA unless we right size our college.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, the floor they're implementing in 24-25 basically says if you aren't functioning on the student-centered funding formula, which is a real impetus to make sure that we are, then you will not be receiving COLA. So that's the hammer for dealing with, absolutely having to deal with the structural deficit. But I think what Rudy pointed out earlier was important too. We are no longer under the ECA. So whatever our enrollment numbers are actually fit into the SCFF. And so that will become part of this overall project that we're looking at. And we are actually looking at having the FA, the classified, the ALA, the confidentials, and management, and 2 members from the board as part of this working group that will work hopefully with a group like FCMAT to do the structural piece. So we'll be very inclusive. And part of that, I just want to remind everybody, I got to have a basis to work from, and that basis has to be position control. And that has to be, I have to know what positions are vacant and what positions are. We were looking at through the spreadsheet the other day, and we had some positions that looked like they were vacant, but they were actually filled. And so we have to get that clear so that we can actually have an informed discussion.
Okay, other comments or questions? Rudy, do you have more to go through here?
I think just a few, a few more items here, and some of them we've already talked about, the PERS and STIRS rate.
You have a raised hand.
Oh, I don't have a second screen, so someone could tell me. I don't
Yeah, who is?
see it here.
It's trustee Everett, Anna Everett.
Ah,
So, yeah, I just wanted to say that I really appreciated that last exchange, and as trustee Croninger was saying, you know, the real enthusiasm, you know, so that this actual working together is, you know, I think that bodes well that you have expressed that, because that's going to be so important going forward. So I just want to just acknowledge that and thank you for that.
Thank you, Anna. Rudy?
So the increase here, we've talked about PERS and STIRS. Utilities, we know that they're higher. There's we know that to fix things, repair, you know, companies are charging more. Just they can do that. So we're anticipating that in the budgeting process. So when we look at non-labor overall, 9% increase year over year seems within the realm of reasonableness. Well, you know, I could do a sanity check there, just given inflation, which doesn't seem to be subsiding. Depending how you look at it. So people say maybe it's decreasing a little bit, the increase, but I think it seems reasonable within that realm. And the only other thing too, I want to also add, thank you for this exchange on the salaries. I'm glad that we've kind of already started down the path of, you know, improving position control, so that when we're asked a question like what's vacant, we can let our system spit out that list, and HR and fiscal services can agree to that list. So that's going to be critical to support this discussion. And so let me think what else. I'll continue on unless someone wants to go back to anything else. Transfers, we discussed transfers. I don't think there's anything on the PowerPoint that wasn't already, that's different from what's here in this section of transfers. Okay. And then the last part, we just talked a little bit here in the assumptions about HERF, that we're expecting all HERF funds to be expended by the end of this fiscal year. There may be a few, you know, it's a handful of projects that due to timing may go a little bit over, but it's not representative of the bigger whole. It's like we're talking like really small amounts. So that's the plan to expend all funds by the end of this fiscal year. Okay, so I don't know if anyone, I'll give everyone a moment here if anyone wants to go back to anything on this assumptions page or document, excuse me.
I'd just like to make a comment.
Yes.
Sure.
Your assumption that our FTS remain the same.
Yes.
I would hope that with the different groups we have working on that our FTS will actually increase. I think that should be like I'm sure you realize this, it should be a high priority, and we have groups working on it. So enrollment management. So I just want to point that out, that hopefully that won't stay a constant or go down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Because I'm pretty sure that what we thought for 21-22 for the budget is higher than what the actuals are coming in at. So that's a fear too, right? If you go back and look at last year's budget, right, we assume a number that's higher than what 21-22 is coming in at. So that's part of the art of the budgeting process, which is, you know, a lot of reliance on a lot of institutional knowledge and also a lot of experience. And there's a lot here. So it's all coming to bear to give the best numbers so that the district can plan accordingly.
So Rudy, with
Go
P2,
ahead.
with our report to the Chancellor's Office on our FTES, P1, were we behind in our budget assumption of FTES?
The last one was, I guess it would have been P2. The last one I saw, yeah, it was lower than what we go back to what we put into the budget. Yeah.
Could you maybe include that in our budget updates? Because it says no change.
Okay, yeah, that, I apologize for that. Budget update.
Actually, thank you, because that would be, I think,
Mhm.
we should let the board know what we reported at P2, so.
Okay,
That's not you, Rudy. We
Yeah.
should all make sure that that just happens, because that would be our, just kind of a transparency issue. Here's what we reported at P2, and then here's our final, and then,
yeah.
yeah.
And just, I think it's, yeah, I don't know, one little comment about ECA. I think it's what ECA does, right? It helps you kind of kick the can down, because you're not impacted by it in 21, 22, because you have ECA, but it's a reality for sure. So we didn't.
It's becoming a reality.
Yeah, so you could project it, whatever, and you have ECA. It does matter, right? It does matter to the long-term health. For 21, 22, it just didn't impact it in the same way it's going to impact it starting in 22, 23. So,
Right.
And that's the reason why it wasn't really put in for the revenue part, because it's like, it's ECA, it's in there. So, but I'll make sure to put a note there, because it is important to at least keep track of that, right? Even though if it doesn't impact 21, 22 because of ECA, but it is a reality. So I'm noting that here to put that in there.
I think what we reported, and tell me if I'm wrong, Lindsay, was 9,840.28, and I'm not sure what the projection was for this year. So that's where we are.
Sounds like the last 320 I saw.
Well, that would make us a small college this year, right? So is there a deficit factor there?
Can I tell you, I'm just not totally sure that they apply that in that year of, do you know, Lindsay, because of the funding formula, do they go with the 3-year average, or do they use the actual year in the base? Do you, I don't remember. I'd have to go look it up.
None of the above because of the ECA. We're still getting funded on 1920 FTS in this fiscal year, including the 3-year average is based on 1920 also for this year.
Yeah.
So they do apply that to what they will give us for facility support as well under the ECA.
So that's the reality of it. For next year, we are off ECA, so it's a reality check. And what I was going to say, thanks, Rudy, for saying you've got a lot of experience in it, but I don't think anybody has any real experience of projecting COVID numbers of students and what we're losing and what we're not getting in enrollments. I think that's all I can say is they're a magician if they're being able to.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else with questions or comments?
No.
Okay. Anna, anything?
I'm good. All of my questions and concerns for this meeting were addressed, so nope.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. Thanks for the helpful comments and discussion, and we will adjourn.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.